Morning, I'm Jim Christie from the Defense Cybercrime Center, and welcome to the first Meet the Fed track that we've ever had here at Blackhat. We've got multiple panels this year. We've got 4 panels. First one's going to deal with law enforcement, counterintelligence kind of things, mostly cops up here, or law enforcement support. And then this next panel 11:15 is on policy, and then at 1:45 human intel, and then the ex-Fed confessions this afternoon. That ought to be interesting. So we've got both Feds and ex-Feds up here today. And we put a whiteboard up here in case you haven't seen it. So if anybody would like to confess to any federal crimes, if you just line up and sign up first, so you can do this anytime during the talk. So what we're going to do is everybody's going to get about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, talk about their agency themselves, what they do for a living, and how they do it to you. And then we're going to open it up to questions. We got a microphone sitting out here in the middle center aisle. Okay. So this is the panel for this morning on CSI TCP IP. Again, I'm Jim Christie from Department of Defense Cybercrime Center, John Garris from NASA, Barry Grundy from Treasury, Bob Hopper from National White Collar Crime Center. Where's that located?
Fairmont, West Bygod, Virginia.
There you go. Rich Marshall, he's our lawyer, so if we have any legal questions, he'll handle those for us and get you out of jail. Chris Mitchell's from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Tom Tallor, ex-NASA. Trent Tima, is that good enough? For FBI. And Amit Uran from DHSX. So kick it off. I'm going to do a couple slides, and then we'll move right on down the aisle here. I'm from DC3. We have the world's largest accredited digital forensics lab. We have an academy that trains all the criminal and counterintelligence investigators in the Department of Defense on how to do digital forensics and computer investigations. We have an institute, DCCI. They do research and development on forensics tools, and then they do the testing of those tools to make sure they do what they say they're supposed to do. We have a thing called DICE, which is a pilot program to protect the defense industrial base, one of the critical infrastructures. And then we have an analytic group of the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force. The FBI is the overall lead for that and have the operations group, and we run the analytic group. In Futures Exploration, I'm the director of Futures Exploration. We do the Meet the Fed panel and Meet the Fed tracks. I run a cybercrime conference every year. We're coming up on our 10th, so we hope you are interested in attending. We export about 300 laptops, and we do hands-on forensics training, 1 and 2 day courses, about 18 different courses. It will be in January in Atlanta this year. We have a secure portal for law enforcement. Anybody here from law enforcement? Cool. We have a free portal. It's a secure portal to share forensics intelligence. And we also run the digital forensics challenges. So right now we're in our 5th digital forensics challenge, and then we're also doing cybersecurity treasure hunts, working with US Cyber Challenge and SANS and a couple other guys. Wanted to talk about the challenge real quick. It's a forerunner to the US Cyber Challenge. We've been running our challenges since 2006. And the reason we started running challenges was because every day technology changes, and we were encountering in our lab problems that we didn't know how to solve. And I was in charge of research and development at the time. We didn't have any money, so I ran a contest and let everybody else solve my problems for free. Seemed to work out pretty good. The first year we had a broken CD. Nobody knew how to recover the data from a broken CD, and we were recovering those not only at crime scenes, but on the global war on terrorism. And we had 11 teams that solved that for us. So we got a pretty good solution, pretty cheap. 2009, we started accepting sponsorships from other agencies like SANS for academic students, Impact for international students, and then became part of and helped formulate the U.S. Cyber Challenge to bring new blood into the government and to basically develop cyber bubbas in the government. So in 2010, we added EC Council and Cyberwatch from Johns Hopkins University. And then as of Monday, we just added the UK. UK kicked off a cybersecurity challenge in UK. And what you do is you take our challenge, and if you're from the UK, they provide a prize. So these are kind of the stats that we have for the current year. 668 teams, and since the announcement of the UK Cyber Challenge on Monday, we picked up another 90 applicants. And these are where the folks that are playing come from. So there obviously are no computers in Mississippi, Montana, and Wyoming. So if anybody's from there and wants to take a challenge, we'll help you out there. Last year, we didn't have anybody from South Dakota. It was only one that didn't have a team. And 45 different countries are participating in our challenges. So that's a little bit about DC3 and what we're doing, and now I'll turn it over to John Garris. Just stay right there.
Yeah, thank you. I have 3 slides here. First of all, John Garris. I run the Computer Crimes Division for NASA Inspector General's Office. I'm located in Washington, D.C. The 3 slides I have, 2 of them relate to specific cases, the theme of which is collaboration and flexibility in response to cybercrime. All the crimes that we run across, just about of any consequence, have an international dimension, which makes things incredibly complex, as if they weren't hard enough already. What we found, the success that we realized, has been entirely based on the ability to be flexible and to rely on partners, both domestically, the likely suspects, the FBI, Secret Service, ICE, etc., as well as overseas. In this particular case, there's supposed to be a build slide. What's going on? You're using a Mac, man. What's going on? And they can't see my face over here. What is that, a bonus?
I'm protecting them.
You're protecting them. Okay. Who here has heard of a Nigerian organized crime? Who here has heard of an organized crime figure actually being prosecuted in Nigeria? Who? Okay. In this particular case, what we have is a NASA employee who, quite frankly, was in no danger of winning Employee of the Year, was corresponding with someone she thought was an attractive young man out of the UK. He convinced her to download a utility to allow them to chat, and of course, you know what happens. She gets infected. He steals all her personal identifying data, unfortunately, as well as some other sensitive NASA data. We reached out to the London Metropolitan Police Department. The server that the guy was using was out of Bulgaria. This guy, we knew, happened to have contacts there, which led us to Nigeria, and then we hit a dead end. But we also reached out to the State Department, and they let us know of a relatively new cybercrime unit that the Nigerian National Police had stood up. And me being a suspicious cop type, early on in this process, I was thinking, great, we're going to be on YouTube, having been scammed ourselves, having dealing with another Nigerian. Hey, if you want us to arrest this guy, just send 10,000 bucks and it'll be fine. So we walked through the process, did an undercover operation with the Nigerians, and also had the State Department help out. And what ultimately happened is it culminated in, well, our agent, a male agent, was very successful in masquerading as a female. We often wonder about that, you know, but he was able to talk the individual into accepting a cell phone because he really wanted to talk to this lovely individual one-on-one. And of course, that was a controlled delivery, and the Nigerians arrested him when he took delivery of it. The Nigerians, we were able to meet them at the Microsoft hosted Computer Crimes Consortium, which was really nice, was really rewarding, and the Nigerians proceeded to tell us their environmental limitations, and you might imagine in Nigeria it's kind of a wild, wild west, and they said that all of the, it's incredibly elaborate organized crime there, and almost all of them operate out of cyber cafes, and almost all the cyber cafes are less than sympathetic to law enforcement. So actually being able to lure this person in to take a physical delivery was manna to them, to be able to hook him up. And ultimately, he was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison in Nigeria, which I think has got to at least account for 5 years, equivalency to a prison in the US. Again, still being suspicious, I said, well, hell, maybe this is just a scam, but we did have a DOJ attorney there witness the sentencing. So the bottom line here is, and it's not just Nigeria, but other countries, Romania, we've dealt with them, Portugal, all of them we found to varying degrees have very dedicated individuals. Now their capabilities are often nascent, but if you get to the right person, a lot of magic can happen. Another case here that highlights flexibility. Who here has heard of bulletproof hosts? Makolo, 3FN, Pricewort. A lot of you folks probably have had to deal with the nastiness that they've spewed before. And on the law enforcement side, the reason why they're called bulletproof, of course, is the individuals conducting the criminal activity that's hosted out of these colos are actually overseas in areas that we do not have extradition treaties, sometimes no multilateral assistance treaties either. So after we hit our head against the wall, we were getting a lot of complaints, understandably, from IT security professionals say, listen, Makolo in particular has been spewing nastiness for years now. Why don't you people do something about it? And it's easier said than done because of the protections afforded in our country. But we were able to team up with the Federal Trade Commission and use their forfeiture authorities because they found that they were disrupting free and open commerce. So ourselves, a lot of folks from Spam House, McAfee, Symantec, Gary Warner out of University of Alabama, basically provided FTC lawyers with the ammunition to go and place an injunction on the entire operation. We were also, after we went through their data, found out that they were moving stuff downstream to another provider, in this case 3FN. The long and short of it is all their assets, the entire operation was shut down, forfeited, liquidated, and on top of that the circuit court judge levied a $1 million fine. Now collecting it, who knows, but the bottom line here is if we can't arrest them, by God we can mess with them and disrupt them, cause their price of business to go up. Am I going too long?
No, keep going.
This slide, switching gears entirely, is more for the forensic geeks in the audience. The bottom line here is basically my call for a little bit more academic research on the fundamentals. The 50-cent word called ontology basically means what is the essence of digital evidence. My position is, in its purest form, after you've extracted it from the cell phone, the PDA, the CD, whatever it is, as long as you know that you've done it thoroughly, it's just zeros and ones. It's basically fungible. You can replicate it all across the board. When we serve a search warrant on Google, for example, we never walk away with the original evidence.